But first, tonight, there are lots of New Year's resolutions floating around this week. One of the most popular, right after losing weight, is becoming more successful. How do we get started in that? Joining us now is Bill Cates, founder of Referral Coach International. Bill, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Jeff. Great to be here.
Let's start with what success means, because it means different things to different people.
It does. And to me, success means balance, but abundant balance, meaning we have an abundance of financial success, an abundance of good relationships, love and friendship in our life, an abundance of good health and physical well-being. An abundance of a spiritual sense in our life, if that's important. So to me, success is not just having a lot of money. There's a lot of people that have a lot of money, but they have a lot of problems, and they're not very balanced in that. So to me, it's balance, but an abundant balance. And I like to think in terms of abundance because it's a good word. It makes people feel good.
You run a program called Are You Ready for Abundance?
Correct.
Who's not ready for abundance?
Well, you know, I say that because a lot of people think they're ready. But when you examine a little more closely, they really aren't ready. They're not doing the things and thinking the way they need to think to really create that abundance. So you have people waiting for their, quote, ship to come in all their life, and they never quite get there because they feel they're ready, but the truth is they're not doing and thinking some things they need to become ready.
Well, what are some of the ways that people are you saying people set themselves up for failure?
Yeah, sometimes. I want to just borrow something from a classic book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. If anyone who wants to bring more money into their life needs to read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he says what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So conceive. In other words, we have to have a clear sense of what success is for us. We can't just say, I want to have more money, I'd like to have more money, I'd like to win the lottery. We have to really know exactly what it is, what we can really conceive and visualize in our mind's eye, and then believe. And a lot of people, that's where they get stuck, where they have the other voices in their head saying, oh, you'll never do that. Maybe it came from a parent or a spouse or friends that they grew up with who are naysayers, and so they can never get to that point of actually believing that they can achieve something. So you got to work on the conceive part. What is it that you want? And you got to work on the believe part. Can I believe? Can I get excited? Do I believe it can happen to me? And then when we take appropriate action after that, then we can actually make it happen.
Sounds like a lot of work as opposed to going and buying some lottery tickets.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by work. Actually, I have a lot of fun personally doing this. I'm always updating my vision. I'm always trying to grow in certain areas of my life, and so I'm getting more clear. I create a vision board, which is pictures that help me really visualize what I want to create, whether it's financial or relationship or health. And so actually that's a lot of fun, imagining and expanding my imagination to create more and more and more. I think the nature of life is to grow, so the nature of our abundance is to grow as well. So it sounds like work, and I guess it is. It's action. I mean, it's something we need to do, but it actually can be a lot of fun, especially as it starts to come true and it starts to happen in one's life, and you see the fruits of your labor. It becomes quite magical.
So you're not just preaching this approach. This is something you do and you have done?
Oh,
absolutely. When did you start? What's your story?
Well, we don't have enough time for my whole story here. But I would say probably started working in this area of abundance and visualization and believing and all that sort of stuff probably about 10 years ago. And it has made a huge difference for me. Part of it is deciding what I'm going to spend my thought process on. What am I going to focus? Like you're in the shower, perhaps, and sometimes when I was in the shower, I might think of someone in my life, and I might think some negative thoughts of that person and start to go down a path of resentment. And I'm sure everyone experiences that from time to time. And now I catch myself. I say, no, I don't want to spend my time thinking about that anymore. I'm going to put my energy somewhere else. So it's really totally changed what I focus on and what I spend my energy on. And because of that, because I'm spending it on more positive things, I'm attracting more positive things into my life.
And then when it's time to translate that into action, where do you begin?
Well, the first thing is the conceive part, which means get very, very clear. And I'm talking about get so clear that you can write it down, you can share it with other people who will support you, not with people who won't support you. And I like to involve all the senses when I write it down. This is how I'm going to feel. This is what I'm going to look like. This is what it's going to feel like when I achieve this, as I achieve this. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to get used to thinking in terms of this abundance. So for instance, let's say hypothetically, you want to make $200,000 a year. Now, some people watching this, that's a lot of money. Some people, it's a small amount of money, but we use that as a base. So let's say I want to make $200,000 a year, and I'm making 50 now. Well, that's a big leap. And so you're not used to thinking in those terms. You're not used to that number. So you got to talk it out and get used to that number. And then as you get used to thinking in terms of those numbers, then you start to believe it. And then you start to be able to act a little bit differently. Taking action, of course, is critical. You can believe anything you want. You can visualize anything you want. I believe if you don't take action to help you get there, then you will never get there. And so you start to make different choices. When you get clear on what you want, when you begin to believe it and get an emotion behind it, choices will be presented to you. Those choices, I think, are probably always there, but because you're more in tune, now you start to take different choices. You make different decisions. You get invited to an event or a party that maybe in the past you wouldn't have said yes to. Now you say yes to. So you take a little step in that direction. Surround yourself by people who can support you in this. There are a lot of people who will not support you in thinking bigger and thinking in terms of abundance. And maybe you have to be in relationship with them. Maybe they're part of your family. But ultimately, you've got to find other people that will support you in this. And then finally, tap into your reservoir of courage, because it takes a lot of courage to think bigger and to act bigger. So it's an exercise in courage as well.
In half a minute or so, how much time do you allocate before you start feeling, oh, this isn't working? Because for somebody getting from 50,000 to 200,000 isn't going to happen overnight.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say that. It can happen overnight because things can happen that we don't expect to happen. So I would never assume that that wouldn't happen. It can take a few months. It can take a year. I allocate a little bit of time every day to this practice of being very clear on what I want, and I talk it out to myself and my staff and my business. We all have very specific affirmations, and we start a staff meeting. We talk about what we want to create in the business, and so we allocate a little bit of time every day. And I'd say it probably started taking 2-3 months before I started to see things working a little differently in my life.
Couple of seconds. Any personal New Year's resolutions?
No, just to keep doing what I'm doing and keep the balance going.
Bill Cates, Referral Coach International. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here, Jeff. Thank you.
We appreciate it.